Green Supply Chain Insights, hosted by Finboot's CEO, Juan Miguel Perez.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. My name is Juan, and this is Green Supply Chain Insights. For the newcomers, Green Supply Chain Insights is a series of monthly episodes on YouTube, followed by articles on LinkedIn, where I bring in my own perspective on green supply chain management, the current state of the industry, and some exciting innovations in this landscape. Today, I'm shuffling things a little bit. In the last couple of episodes, I've started covering some macro trends like the omnibus and the competitiveness compass, which then led me to micro initiatives like the rise of biogas and biomethane and the growing importance of digital traceability. Today, we're going to flip the format, meaning we're going to start at the micro level and then we're going to zoom out. I'll be focusing on two exciting industrial scale pilots and multi-corporate collaborations dealing with waste in the automotive sector, specifically looking at end-of-life vehicles and their recycling. So let's start with the basics. What's an end-of-life vehicle? Well, it's any motor vehicle that is considered waste, meaning it no longer has a functional or economic value. This could be due to age and wear and tear, or it could be because it got written off due to an accident. The management of ELVs has been largely regulated in Europe, but mostly taking into account consideration for the prevention of environmental harm, meaning it was more of a health and safety issue. That said, in the last decade or so, both businesses and regulators have increasingly focused on the opportunity for resource recovery. In other words, ELV recycling. And ELV recycling and resource recovery is exactly where the initiatives I want to cover today are focusing. First up, we have the UK's Pivot project. It is a public-private initiative led by Sarginsons Industries. Sarginson is a UK-based aluminium foundry and pattern making, specializing in low porosity castings and complex geometries. The project involves the entire value chain stakeholders, including Aston Martin as an OEM, on the scrap management and raw materials, and other technical and supporting partners for dismantling and remanufacturing. The Pivot project is looking at aluminium recovery from ELVs. The project's top-line objective is to revolutionize vehicle manufacturing by creating a lighter and more sustainable component. And Pivot is one in a list of 8 major projects launched in the UK late in 2024 and receiving backing from the government. In total, the projects represent an investment of nearly £60 million for UK green vehicle production. Well, not necessarily a game changer in terms of the initial investment. This is a good start, and it's a positive signal to accelerate the reduction of CO2 and the broader environmental impact in manufacturing and usage of low vehicles. The second project brings us back to continental Europe and to the chemical industry, and it looks at the recovery of plastics from ELVs. In this case, it is the world's first automotive plastics circularity pilot, which is coordinated by the Global Impact Coalition, or GIC. The GIC is a CEO-led platform which grew out of the World Economic Forum and unites major actors across the chemical value chain to co-develop breakthrough solutions and accelerate them to commercial scale. Their goal is to enable a net zero chemicals future. We are proud to say that 2 of Finboot's flagship customers, SABIC and MOEVE, are both part of this coalition. For the ELV plastic recycling pilot, an incredibly strong list of industries have come together to collaborate in this issue. The list includes companies like BASF, LyondellBasell, Covestro, SABIC, LG Chem, Mitsubishi Chemicals, Suez, and Syensco. And their project has a very specific target. Every year, over 1 million metric tons of plastics are recovered from ELVs in Europe. But more than 80% of that is incinerated or landfill. That's over 800,000 metric tons of potential raw materials, which could be reinserted in the value chain to reduce the chemical industry's carbon intensity and maximize economic value. The GIC pilot will begin with a limited scale of 100 ELVs for dismantling, sorting, and distribution of the recovered materials for their use as feedstock by each of the chemical manufacturers in the project. This Automotive Plastics Circularity project aligns with evolving regulatory frameworks, including the EU's proposed ELV regulations. Which then leads me to that macro trend. Why are these pilots happening now? What's the looming threat or opportunity that the organizations involved are seeing that is to take this step to accelerate decarbonization and to promote circularity in their value chains? Well, part of it may very well be their own corporate targets and decarbonization roadmaps. But the urgency driver behind this is once more the regulatory pressures. New rules for vehicle recycling are coming. The EU's planned end-of-life vehicle regulation could replace or will replace the end-of-life vehicle directive as early as the end of 2025. So like they did with packaging and packaging waste with the release of PPWR, this change in end-of-life vehicles will be another example of how the EU moves to remove any room for maneuvering to EU states, using, or in this case, upgrading to the regulation framework, provides a unified set of rules that are applied directly to all member states. Now, again, while the regulation isn't expected to be confirmed until later this year or even the beginning of 2026, the current draft already provides some insights on what to expect, especially on the context of vehicle recycling. The list of components that must be removed from end-of-life vehicles is set significantly. Beyond batteries, airbags, and catalytic converters that are all covered under the current directive, items like plastic panels, electronic control units, and valuable magnetic materials from electric motors will also be required for mandatory removal under the new regulation. New rules on assessment parts to simplify their reinsertion in the value chain from reuse to remanufacturing will also come into place. And of course, moving the threshold up in the recycling rate with a proposal to bring recycling rate of plastics from end-of-life vehicles up to 30%, which, as we saw from the GIC pilot, is currently at about 19%. In reality, recycling rates of materials from ELVs are already generally high. The issue is that most of that is scrap metals of very low quality, plus very small amounts of plastics. So in metals, the problem is quality, while in plastics, the problem is quantity. Projects like Pivot in the UK will be looking and will be working to increase the quality of those scrap metals, in this case, specifically to aluminium. And initiatives like the GIC pilot will test the potential to scale up plastic recovery. This can have a huge impact considering the automotive manufacturing industry is among the largest consumers of primary raw materials such as steel, aluminum, copper, and plastics. And I think it's a great approach to look at the decarbonization of mobility from a much broader lens. While electrification is important, there is so much more work needed to truly reduce the climate impact of this industry. So I'm excited to see what these projects bring. I'm also curious to get more clarity on the upcoming regulation. And of course, I'm very optimistic as well to see how across industrial collaborations and regulatory initiatives, digitization is becoming more and more indispensable. Without digital traceability, it will be almost impossible to manage the value chain for vehicle recycling. The regulation is signaling to include digital record keeping and data availability as part of the requirement, along with digital records for proof of dismantling, which could be the starting point for broader traceability of recycled raw materials in automotive. And I already see some forward-thinking European business leaders taking one step ahead and building digital traceability at the core of the initiatives, not just as the means to ensure future compliance, but as an opportunity to strengthen their market position, to expand the offering to their clients, and to create new revenue streams. If any of this resonates with you, if you're exploring opportunities in this space, or if you would like to learn more on the ELV initiatives that I covered today, I'm here to help. I'm happy to have a more detailed conversation on what this could imply to you, to your organization, and your position in the industry. Now it's time to wrap up today's episodes. We will be back next month with another episode of Green Supply Chain Insights. Remember, episodes come out every month, followed by that LinkedIn article version of each episode. You can find all episodes on my LinkedIn profile, on Finboot's YouTube channel, or going to finboot.com/insights. Thank you for watching and see you next month.